All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are getting into a topic that really sits at the foundation of our health. It's a condition that a whole lot of experts believe is the main thing driving the chronic diseases that affect so many of us. We are talking about insulin resistance.
So, what is the common thread here? What connects these major diseases that seem so different on the surface? Well, the source for this explainer, a really deep interview with the legendary diabetes researcher Dr. Ralph DeFronzo, points to one single, incredibly powerful answer. It all comes down to a fundamental breakdown in how our body manages energy.
The physician and researcher Peter Adia has this really powerful name for it. He calls it the fourth horseman of disease. It might not be what's written on the death certificate, but it is the deep, underlying problem that just massively cranks up the risk for everything else. And right at the core of this metabolic dysfunction is insulin resistance.
So what exactly is insulin resistance? On the surface, the definition seems pretty simple, right? It's when your body cells kind of go numb to the hormone insulin. But as Dr. DeFronzo points out, that's almost too simple. See, insulin isn't just about blood sugar. It's a master hormone doing hundreds of jobs, regulating fat, protein, how organs work all over the body. So resistance isn't just one little failure. It's a massive breakdown happening on a whole bunch of fronts at the same time.
Let's just try to picture how this whole system falls apart. Okay, so in a healthy body, insulin is like the master conductor of an orchestra. It points to the muscles and says, "You, take up this glucose for energy." It looks at the fat cells and says, "Lock that fat away safely." And it signals the liver, "Hey, we've got enough fuel, stop making more glucose." But with insulin resistance, oh man, every single one of those signals gets scrambled. The muscles basically say no thanks to the glucose, the fat cells spring a leak, and the liver, completely ignoring the signal to stop, just keeps flooding your system with even more sugar. It is, in a word, metabolic chaos. Dr. DeFronzo explains that at its heart, type 2 diabetes really boils down to two main problems. First, you've got the insulin resistance. But here's the thing, that alone won't give you diabetes if your pancreas can keep up. The little insulin factories in your pancreas, your beta cells, can just work harder, pump out more insulin, and overcome that resistance. The second problem hits when those beta cells just get totally exhausted and start to fail. So when that resistance meets beta cell failure, that's when you get diabetes. But as we're about to see, the story is actually way more complex than that. Turns out, it's not just two problems. Dr. DeFronzo argues that if you really want to understand this disease, you need to be thinking about this number, 8. And here it is. This is the full picture, what Dr. DeFronzo famously called the ominous octet. He argues that diabetes isn't a two-part problem at all, it's an 8-front war. Look at this. You have the familiar players, right? The beta cells failing, the muscle and liver resisting insulin. But check out the others. The fat cells, they start leaking toxic fats, the gut's hormone signaling breaks down, your alpha cells start pumping out way too much glucagon, which is a hormone that tells your liver to make even more sugar. And then even the kidney and the brain get dragged into this mess, each one contributing to the chaos. This framework, it changes everything.
And within that octet, a couple of these co-conspirators, let's call them, are just shocking. What they do is completely backward. It defies everything you'd think your body would do to try and protect itself.
So first, let's talk about the fat cell. We usually think of fat cells as the enemy, but you know what? At first, they're actually your friend. Their job is to safely store away extra energy so it doesn't cause problems. The trouble starts when they get overstuffed and become insulin resistant themselves. They go from being a secure storage unit to a leaky, toxic barrel, spilling fatty acids out into your blood. And that spill, called lipotoxicity, goes on to poison your muscles and your liver, making their own insulin resistance even worse. But maybe the most bizarre conspirator of all is the kidney. Think about it. When your blood sugar is dangerously high, what should your kidney do? Logically, it should work like a filter and dump all that extra sugar out into your urine. But no, it does the exact opposite. The transporters in the kidney actually ramp up their activity, grab that sugar, and pull it right back into your bloodstream. It's actively making the high blood sugar worse. It's an incredible act of metabolic self-sabotage. This quote from Dr. DeFronzo just cuts right to the heart of it all. If you've got a complex 8-part problem, why on earth would we think a single drug could ever fix it?
It's just not going to happen. This complexity is exactly why treating this is so hard, and why a lot of the common wisdom we have about the drugs we use is, well, it's often flat out wrong. Take metformin, for example. It's the most common type 2 diabetes drug on the entire planet. For decades, everyone just believed that it works by making your muscles more sensitive to insulin. But Dr. DeFronzo is crystal clear on this. That is wrong. The specific molecular doorway that metformin needs to get inside a cell, it just doesn't exist in our muscle tissue. It literally can't get in. Its main benefit comes from telling the liver to just calm down and stop making so much glucose. Now, by contrast, a drug like pioglitazone is a true insulin sensitizer, and it shows us this amazing paradox. So people who take this drug often gain a few pounds, which sounds bad, right? But here's the crazy twist. The more weight they gain, the healthier all their metabolic numbers get. Their A1C, their blood pressure, their cholesterol, it all gets better. And why? Because the drug is fixing the real problem. It's grabbing that toxic, free-floating fat that's poisoning the organs and bloodstream, and it's putting it back where it belongs, in safer storage, right under the skin. This science is incredible, but it brings up a super critical personal question. The gold standard test for diagnosis is called a euglycemic clamp. It's this intricate test that measures exactly how your body uses insulin. But it's a research tool. You and I can't just walk into a clinic and get one. So how can we spot the early warning signs in ourselves? Well, according to Dr. DeFronzo, the clues are hiding in a pretty common test called an oral glucose tolerance test, the OGTT. That's the one where you chug a sugary drink and they track your blood sugar and insulin response. But instead of just looking at the standard results, he looks for these specific patterns. A glucose reading over 155 at the 1 hour mark, that's a huge red flag for future diabetes. A weak or slow insulin spike at 30 minutes, that suggests your beta cells are already getting tired out. And here's a weird one. If your blood sugar crashes below where you started at the 2 hour mark, that's a classic sign of severe insulin resistance because it means your body's overshooting with a giant delayed flood of insulin. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, the real takeaway is this. Insulin resistance is not one single thing. It's a cascade of failures happening all over the body, that ominous octet. And understanding that complexity changes everything, from how we catch the disease early to how we treat it. Which leaves us with a final, really big question. In the face of an enemy this complex, maybe the search for one single magic bullet has been a fool's errand all along. Maybe the real future lies in building a smarter, more personalized arsenal.